Yesterday's film showed me something. Pop made an adjustment, and Pop gave them this false sense of hope that they can run the offense through Nurk. And it's almost like defenses are starting to trick them into the mid-range. We'll give you that. Look at that nice little sweet spot, Book. Take that. That's what you do. Hey, KD, same thing. You go there. We're not going to press that too much. We're going to let you and invite you.
Hank McCoy.
All right, guys, it's time for a little show and tell. So we each had a good and a bad stat about this Suns team that we are going to share with the class. Flex, you want to start us off?
Yeah.
All right. You going to start with the good or the bad
I'm
first?
going to start with the good.
Okay.
I'm going to start with the good. All right, so the Suns are 4th in field goal percentage in the entire NBA and 5th in three-point percentage in the entire NBA. So
All right.
what does that tell me? They shoot the ball really well. Top in the league in field goal percentage and top of the league in three-point percentage. But that leads to my bad. You want to throw the bad up there? Here's the bad. They're 26 in three-point attempts. So they shoot the hell out the three, but no one has told them to shoot. You shoot it great, but you don't shoot it enough. And so this is simple things that I think lead to focus and execution. You can't be that good at shooting the ball and not shoot the ball. And if they correct those things, they can get that number up to about 38 to 40.
Yeah.
Makes a world of difference. And the last thing I'll say on this point is I believe their record is now 7-1 when they actually shoot 43s because they're very good at it. So shoot more threes, Suns.
Simple as that.
I actually have one that's kind of similar.
Okay, you go next.
Well, listen, in the spirit of optimism, let's go with the good. The Suns are shooting 41% from three against the top 4 teams in each conference, averaging 30 attempts per game. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm cool with that. However, the Suns are 6-7 against those teams, and in those losses are being outshot from three by 10%, 35% to 45%. Like the other teams are getting up more and they're hitting more. Like that's not good. So listen, you got to improve, and as Flex said, you got to get more shots up from three. Like I don't understand this fascination with the mid range. Not now, not today, not if you want to win a championship. You better start jacking them up. Especially
when you're shooting so well from deep too, like 4th in field goal percentage, right? 5th in 3-point percentage in the league. Like it's not like you're just jacking up threes to jack up threes. Like you're shooting well, so there should be no reason not to up your volume of attempts.
And it's crazy because the average attempts for those other teams is somewhere around the 38 to 40 range. The average attempts for us in that 13-game stretch is it's like 29.9. They barely get 30 attempts per game against the best teams in the league. Like you got to get up more. Like it's just it's unacceptable, and it's almost just pure negligence at this point. Like you got to get them up. You got to get them up.
Great word, negligence.
Yeah.
What do you attribute it to?
Kevin Young. Sorry. My bad. My bad. That was a straight KY. My bad.
He just came out high.
I mean, listen, man, somebody's got to tell them. Like, I'm sure they talk about it, and I'm sure they're emphasizing it. But like, listen, man, you got to get them up. You got to get them up. I think they've been so conditioned. Listen, Devin Booker's played a specific way his whole life, and for him to just switch over to being a more dominant three-point shooter, that's going to take time. KD has not been a volume three-point shooter as well, but he can shoot the three, and he can shoot it at a high clip. It's just, again, training them, and I feel like they've caught themselves in a moment where they realize like the league has transitioned so greatly to the three-point line that maybe it caught them a little bit off guard because of the prior success they've had the last 2 or 3 years. And now they're having to almost retrain their brains mid-season to jack up more threes because they're not really – that's just not the way they've played their whole life. They've taken the smart shot. They've taken the best shot that they can get. And unfortunately, in these instances, unless you shoot 60% from that mid-range, the other teams are going to beat you.
And that's go ahead.
No, I just want to add a point to that. because you went directly at Kevin Young. I thought that was funny, but no,
I have no idea. I just threw his name out there.
I will say this: if I had to pinpoint why they're not shooting enough threes, I think they're getting bamboozled a little bit. I really do. I mean that by yesterday's film showed me something. Pop made an adjustment, and Pop gave them this false sense of hope that they can run the offense through Nurk. And it's almost like defenses are starting to trick them into the mid-range. We'll give you that. Look at that nice little sweet spot, Book. Take that. That's what you do. Hey, KD, same thing. You go there. We're not going to press that too much. We're going to let you and invite it. Mm-hmm. And you're going to hit a couple, and you're going to feel good about continuing to invite it. But in the long run, I'm stopping you from getting in three-point attempts, and I'm going to put up more, and that's how I'm going to beat you. I do feel like when I look at the tape, they're being tricked a little bit. I saw Greg Popovich do that with the 7 seconds or less Suns. Amari averaged 40 for the series, and everybody was running around saying, what a great series Amari had. And little do they know, they were bamboozled. Pop said, let Amari dunk everything. Quentin Richardson ain't taking 700 threes. Nash ain't taking all them threes. Sean Marion. So I feel like, to answer the question, they're going to have to get out of getting enticed into the mid-range and say, no, we're not getting bamboozled anymore, man. We know we got to put up more threes. And so that's just my view on it from looking at tape.
I can't help but think of, what's his name, Big Time? On
LA radio?
No. On He Got Game. He was like, yeah, they be calling me, come on in, Jesus. Like, that's, he was talking about something different, but it's like, that is,
but it's
that enticing.
Premise,
like, I'm going to go in there and shoot that mid-range.
And that's what NBA defenses are going to do now, too. And it's a product of the way that they play, because all three of these guys are used to, if I have a mismatch, I'm going to attack that because that's a good play for me and for our team. But it feels like there does need to be a little bit more of a firm hand when it comes to, we need to, because when they run sets, when they run their actions, like, they're impossible to stop. When the ball is moving, when it's swinging, that's when they're generating the threes. You're not generating a ton of threes out of ISO or, KD on the block unless there's a shooter one pass away ready for that double team. Like, the ball is not moving ideally in those circumstances. So I think that'll help them when we transition to playoff ball and you need to hunt for those pigeons in the playoffs. But like, right now, this is not a team that's built for regular season success because they're not getting, it's just the simple math of it. You're not getting up enough threes despite being a really good shooting team. And they take some of the toughest shots in basketball and are still, to your stat, one of the best shooting teams from the floor and from three. So imagine if they just start generating more open looks, how unstoppable that offense is going to be.
Yeah. And to your point too, of last night, you guys brought up how when you look at Grayson Allen and Eric Gordon and how many attempts they're getting and how many points they have at the end of the game is a little bit indicative of how well the ball is moving and the flow of Suns basketball. Yeah. And we didn't get to see too much from them last night at all. And then to that point, there was somewhere I was going with that. Oh, I would love to know the stats. I'm going to look this up after the show and see if we can find it. I would love to know the stats of how, like, what is the threshold of threes attempted by EG or Grayson? Maybe you could put Royce O'Neal in there, but you'd have to kind of separate it out from whence he joined the team. And like the amount of attempts the Suns have had and wins.
Gotcha.
Like, I would love to have a barometer of those two guys specifically.
Yeah.
And how much of a difference that makes.
I got a question, because you follow the stuff closely. We talk about the Suns' turnovers, and a lot of times they could be attributed to overpassing. Correct?
Yeah.
Another thing that I noticed when I watched the tape is that, to my point, I think they're getting baited into the mid-range a little bit. And I think that there's times that they realize it. And that's where the overpassing comes.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, because how many times this week did we see Brad Beal 2 feet from the basket? He should just take a layup. Instead, he tries to force that pass somewhere else. And it's almost like something in their head says, y'all are falling into it again. Don't do it. And then that turnover comes. So this is why I'm screaming inside, like, this is so fixable, guys. Like, they're not as far as it looks, but they got to get out their own way, and they just have to figure some things out.
Yeah, and one of those things they got to figure out is taking care of the ball a little bit more. So I'm going to start with the bad stat.
Sure.
The Suns are 25th in turnovers right now this season, averaging 14.9 per game. But on a kind of good note, on my good stat, the Suns have a 20-12 record when committing less than 14 turnovers this season. So they're 25th in turnovers at 14.9. But if you just limit it by like 1.5, 2, you're middle of the pack now.
Yeah.
So we're not asking for much, is what we're saying here. That small margin can make a world of difference. So just 1 or 2 less.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
It's 1 or 2 bonehead plays a game that you eliminate.
It's the focus.
It's different.
Yeah.
The difference between ordinary and extraordinary is just that little extra.
Yeah.
There you
They're
go.
extraordinarily awful when it comes to turning the ball over.
It's a
So
thin
how about we
line.
stop?
It's a thin line. No, Linz, I love. I mean, we were talking a little pregame, and when I saw the angle you were going, I loved it because it's something past couple of days I've been looking at. I'm like, just the other day, right? They went to 14-9 after yesterday, but going into yesterday, they were at 14.1. And I'm sitting here, and I'm like, man, if you just go to, I know it's a lot, but if you go to 12-1, just 2 turnovers. It puts you in the top 8 in the NBA. So it's like, it's just 1 or 2 plays. Lindsay's right. It's just, if you could turn that 14 to 13, I wonder what their record would be. You said that 20-12 when they have 14 or less?
Less than 14.
13 or less.
Yeah, so 13 or less. So less than 14.
13 or less, 20-12. Okay. I mean, yeah. I wonder. Yeah, it's like yesterday. Did they have 15?
Yes.
They had 15 yesterday. Honest question. Is it fair to say that if you had 14 turnovers yesterday, you win that game?
Or if you have the potential.
Yeah,
Anyway.
it was a 2-point game
have the
on the
potential.
last possession.
Yeah.
And 1 turnover, that turnover we're talking about probably led to a basket on the other end.
They
And
gave
so-
up like 17 or 19 points off
There
turnovers.
was one in
so, yeah.
particular where they got a turnover. Brad got a steal, and then was on a break with KD 2-on-1 and gave it right back up.
Yep.
Right? That play right there. If they just finished that, 2 of the best players in the world, finish that turnover, maybe you don't lose yesterday, but whatever.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Gerald, what you got, good and bad?
All right, so mine is going back to continuity and reps because that's my thing this year. Let's start with the good stat. So the good stat is that the Suns starting 5 has a plus 8.2 net rating, and that is 7th in the NBA among all 5-man lineups that have played at least 350 minutes together this season. So when the Suns starting 5 has been on the court, they've been really good. They've been one of the best 5-man groups in the NBA. Unfortunately, as we will see with the bad stat, of the 200 3-man lineups that have played at least 600 minutes together, the Suns' big 3 ranks 70th in net rating, 182nd in minutes played together, and 198th in games played together. So I narrowed it down to 600 minutes for those 3-man lineups because I wanted to see, okay, the Suns are at like 600 and some with their big 3 on the court. So where do they rank in net rating? Well, they're not great. They're good, but they're not great. Where do they rank in time spent together? Damn near the bottom of the pack.
Which is why
That is the biggest thing for me. Like, I know that this team should be better. 2 things can be true at once. This team shouldn't have lost so many games when they only had 2 of the big 3 available. Like, there were games that they lost that we were like, it doesn't matter that Bradley Beal was out or that Devin Booker was out. They should have won that game. But at the same time, their fundamental problem is that they haven't had their guys available. Like, and we knew that this could be an issue. We knew, that's why I kept saying from the start of the season, we need like 60 games of these dudes together, at least, for me to feel confident about them. We've gotten 31 games of it. Like, it's not enough, and you're going to struggle against the Denver Nuggets of the world, or even, the Minnesota Timberwolves or Oklahoma City Thunders, who have been together for the last season or 2. That is a tough thing to overcome.
I disagree. High school basketball season's 32 games long. They should be able to figure it out.
They've had a whole high school basketball season together. Get it together.
Come on, man.
What are we doing with our lives?
25-6. That's not much to ask.
Oh,
Shout out Marcus
my
Demuth.
goodness.